over at BangTheBook.com, we've got all 32 conference tournament previews up for you over there, including all the ones that start today, tomorrow, and throughout the rest of the week. My MLB season win total previews and all my future stuff posted over there as well. Parker Michaels just posted his NHL picks piece before we started recording, so you can go check that out today. Also, Kyle Hunter's daily college basketball picks piece. We'll have tons of March Madness content for you. I've got a Players' Championship preview. We'll have NASCAR and UFC for the weekend as well. So tons going on over at BangTheBook.com, to say the least right now. Don't forget to subscribe to our Bang the Book YouTube page. Lots of great videos going on over there, including videos each week from our first guest, Brian Blessing. And as you know, this and every edition of Bang the Book Radio, presented by our friends over at DSI Sportsbook. BTB200 is that promo code. 100% deposit match bonus for the Sportsbook. 100% deposit match bonus for the live casino at BetDSI. It's only a game until you bet it. 4 guests on the program here today. We start things off with Brian Blessing, the host of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline. Brian, how's it going today, man?
Hey, Adam, 2 hours, kid. And the throw
yes, sir. Ready. Yeah, right. Well, if I was still like I was 3 weeks ago, there's no way I could pull it off. But feeling pretty good here today. Lots of stuff for us to get to. We've talked a ton of college basketball the last couple of weeks, so kind of happy to start it off with something a little bit different here. Take a look at the Players' Championship down at TPC Sawgrass. Over $12 million in the prize pool for this one. $2.25 million to the winner. As you would expect, Brian, this brings out all the best in the world of golf.
Oh, it's a great tournament. It's, I think general betting strategies certainly apply here. There's a lot of new information that we're going to have to dissect with the tournament from May to March now. The biggest thing, well, there's 2 huge things. The Bermuda grass is gone, so they've overseeded the place. The roughs from 4.5 inches down to 2.5 inches, which will still be penal, but not as ridiculous as it not ridiculous. I mean, hey, you got to hit the fairway. It was what it was. Guys will have an outside chance if they hit the rough to still get it up on the greens. The biggest thing, though, is the difference from May to March, albeit only a few months. Prevailing wind will be completely different. And usually it's a southerly wind, but here at this time of year, it's a northerly wind, which means they're hitting into the wind on the island hole and into the wind on the tough 18th, which was a brutal driving hole to begin with. And number 14, which is just an incredibly long and brutal par 4, is going to play extremely tough as well. So it's like a major, man. I mean, it does separate the cream here, and you're going to have to be on top of your game. But I would say to you that, again, you start to see who's handling the course. I think the first 2 days, get a feel for who's playing the course well. Like somebody on Thursday could take a snowman on a hole or have a bad stretch of holes, and then all of a sudden start to figure out, okay, here are the differences of the course. And there'll be a lot of golf left to play that I think on Friday night specifically, I think you'll have a real defined opportunity to get a world-class player or a guy you think is ready to have a big weekend at an overlaid price on Friday night. So, I mean, you make your plays coming in, but really make plans because TPC is a high-risk, high-reward kind of thing where, someone can go just bananas at the end. I mean, Ricky Fowler's win comes to mind. It was ridiculous what he did. He eagled 16. He just kept throwing darts on 17. That was one of the greatest tournaments ever when Ricky Fowler won it. But you can put the rally cap on in this tournament, the final 5 holes.
Well, as we look at this thing, it's pretty rare to see everybody double digits or higher in a golf tournament. But because there's so much talent in this field, the odds are really spread out here this week. When it opened over at 5 dimes, Dustin Johnson and Rory McIlroy were co-favorites at plus 1225. Now Johnson the favorite, plus 1160. Rory a little better than 12-1. Thomas a little better than 14. Fowler and Koepka 20. Rose 21. Molinari and Woods around 22. Rahm, Schauffele, DeChambeau, Fleetwood, Garcia, Day, Cantlay, Scott, Casey, Matsuyama. I mean, the list goes on and on here for this tournament. So, what are you looking to do? I mean, are you looking to take some really good guys at the mid-range prices and then, hope the elite players are, as you mentioned, 3 or 4 shots back going into the weekend?
It's funny. I've got two guys for sure I'm going to play. And I may actually, like I said, I think I'm really going to maybe tread a little more lightly in this tournament than normal. It's funny. I know we've had this discussion in the past, and I had a discussion with someone on a different podcast last week, and he's kind of a golf guy, and I said, I got, you got to look ahead down the road. I said, I got Matthew Fitzpatrick at 100-1 to win the Masters. He thought I was insane. I think this kid's got the game. I think he could be this year's Xander Schauffele. And sure enough, he shows up last week, and I'm sitting there just having a conniption because I played Fitzpatrick in a couple of tournaments. I played Matthew Wallace in a couple of tournaments, and these guys contended, and I'm sitting there, thank God Molinari won the thing. I'd have been sick to my stomach if one of those guys would have won. So I think you got to be willing to look ahead, look down the road, and plot a course. I would just say this. Xander Schauffele is an overlay at 25-1. This kid has shown up on the big stage. He shows up in the WGC events. I think this kid has a game that's capable of winning a major. And this is always a prelude to winning a major, right? I mean, Sergio Garcia could never win a major. Sergio Garcia, won this event and then won the Masters. So, this is a game that, Webb Simpson's the defending champ. I think Webb Simpson's sitting on a big year. I've been playing him a little bit now, and it's funny. It wasn't his putting, it was his ball striking, but he's a great ball striker, but it's taken him a couple of years. He and Adam Scott, right, when they had the anchored putting ban, those guys went away for a couple of years. Well, those guys are getting the putting stroke back, and they're still great ball strikers. So, again, it's like a horse race. You got to be willing to draw a line to it, forgive a bad outing, bounce back with the guy. But I think Schauffele is definitely on the list. He was a runner-up here last year. I think he will contend for sure. And the price play, and I honestly, I kind of get it, but current form means so much. Other than, Dustin Johnson, McIlroy, Thomas. And I'd probably throw Rose in that category. Rose got a pass last week because he was one of the hosts at Bay Hill and had all these off. These guys, they're that price because they contend every week. But most of the other guys, albeit great golfers, most of these guys have a 3 to 5 week window of their game is dialed in. Well, what more does this Keith Mitchell kid got to show you? He wins 2 weeks ago, and he almost posted a number that would have been dangerous on Sunday. This kid, Keith Mitchell kid's playing great. He's 100-1. Current form means something to me, pal.
Yeah, for sure. And, a guy that you mentioned in your video for last week, and he pulled a top 5, Rafael Cabrera Bello, a guy that I'm kind of interested in here this week. Unfortunately, he's down to 50-1 because of that top 5 last week, but he was also in the top 5 here last year in this event. So that would make some sense. I agree with the Schauffele thing because, we talk about Brooks Koepka and how Brooks Koepka is a guy that plays really well at the majors and on tough courses. Schauffele is the same kind of guy. Second at the Players last year, second at the Open, 6th at the U.S. Open, won the Tour Championship in 2017. He just plays really well in really good fields on really good courses. And another guy I think you mentioned a lot here this year so far, I kind of like him at 50-1 too, is Ian Poulter. Maybe the winds kind of hurt him a little bit because he's not the biggest distance guy, but fairways and greens for that dude, and that helps you here at TPC.
Yeah, and again, I think there's nothing wrong with taking a couple of 100-1 guys. Not at all. Who can get the hot hand that week? And again, there is going to be a distinct learning curve for the players here because it's amazing the difference that just a couple of months made. If you're watching the live from presentation and all the things they're doing with the preview aspect of it, and there are times in Florida in May, this course, there are a lot of the holes are brown. And they'll be 13 on the stiff meter. They always make it tough. But right now, the difference now, this course is as green and as lush as it's ever been. So it's actually going to play a little bit different. And they did all kinds of analytics. It should play a tad tougher. But I think the first 36 holes will give you a real good indicator, and I still think you can get someone 4 or 5 shots off the pace going into the weekend that can come storming back. I would say this, Matt Wallace will definitely be on my ticket at 80-1. Guy, I've been playing him right along. Did it last week, and I almost bit myself in the butt. This guy won 3 times on the European Tour last year, and he's another one of these guys now where he's starting to show up on the PGA Tour, and he'll acclimate to it. But you know, it's night and day the difference between a European Tour event and a PGA Tour event. You know, there are a lot of whole courses over there where you're kind of bouncing it in. It has a links aspect to it. Over here, everything is flying at the pin. And I think, and the other guy, Tommy Fleetwood, seemed to maybe find his legs a little bit last week too. So don't sleep on the Europeans in this event.
Fleetwood did it to me again last week. You know, at the Arnold Palmer the last 2 years, he's played really, really well except for one round where he's hung a 75 or a 76. Damn it, he did it again last week to me where he hung a 76. I think it was in the 3rd round. Would have been right there, but just couldn't avoid that one bad round. Maybe he's able to do it here this week at the Players. One other long shot I'll throw out. Go ahead.
No, I was just, sorry to interrupt. I was just going to throw this at you in that the schedule's completely different now, right? I mean, you got this, then the Masters. The majors are done by July, and they're doing it to put a bigger focus on the FedEx, be done before the start of football. It makes sense. I mean, so we're going to have huge events. But the other thing I would say to you is because of this, and a guy like Fleetwood, find another guy or two that just drives you absolutely crazy, where he's there. He's always there, but he has one bad hole. He takes an 8 on a par 5, or he hits it in the drink and takes a triple on a par 4, and he costs him a tournament. Those are the guys, circle them and look ahead. Those are the guys you want to play in the Dell Match Play. That's my favorite event. I mean, I love the Masters, but from a betting perspective, my favorite betting event of the year is the WGC Match Play, because you'll get guys like that just have that one bad hole that just they cost them a golf tournament because it's stroke play. But other than that, they're throwing darts all the time. So like a guy like Fleetwood, I just listening to you talk, and you're right. And that Fleetwood will absolutely be a play-on kind of guy for me in the match play.
Absolutely. That's an excellent point. One more guy I'll throw out here, maybe more of a top 10 or a top 5. I don't know if he's got the horsepower to win this thing, though, but Ryan Palmer's 125-1 this week. 3 top 10 finishes already, 10th in strokes gained on approach, which I think matters a lot when you talk about the Players, because a lot of these greens slope toward the water, or a lot of these greens are pretty difficult putting surfaces. If he's going to hit it close on his approach, he's a guy that may hang around a little bit. So maybe a first-round leader type thing, or top 5, top 10 for Ryan Palmer, 125-1 to win this thing. All right, let's go over to the college.
Real quick, Palmer's another guy. He's a birdie machine. He's another guy who would be great for the match play. But yeah, can a guy like that be 3 back and get hot at the end? Yeah, sure. And I'll throw one other one at you now. As we're perusing it and you're going through it, you get 150-1. Shane Lowry is a really good player. He won at Firestone. He won a WGC event. He won an event, whatever it was, 5-6 weeks ago. Shane Lowry's game is capable on a course like this at 150-1. So there's another guy, just as we hash this out, swinging for the fences is not the craziest thing in the world in this tour championship.
No, I don't think so either. Like you said, throw some triple-digit shots out there and then hope that some of the elite players are 3 or 4 shots back going into Saturday, and then you make your move on them at that point. I think it's a really good strategy here for the Players' Championship. And I wish this event wasn't so overshadowed by college basketball all weekend, because this isn't a major. I know people call it the unofficial 5th major, but this is a damn good event, and I hope people get a chance to check it out a little bit here this weekend. All right, so let's talk about the MAC Conference Tournament here. The first-round games are in the books. They were played at the campus sites last night. Akron, Central Michigan, Northern Illinois, and Ball State all move on to Cleveland, where this thing picks up now at Quicken Loans Arena. And obviously Buffalo the favorite here, Brian.
Yeah, and here's the unique nature of this tournament, or all the tournaments. This team's home and cooled. But I think it's a highly motivated team, Adam, and I'll tell you why. Number 18 in the country, and at one point they'd been, I think the highest they ever were was a 5. Then they got upset and they dropped to a 7, and they're firmly now a 6 seed. I think there's distinct motivation for Buffalo here. Lenardi's got them as a 6 seed. As a 6 seed, they can make some noise, some serious noise. I think they would make the Sweet 16 as a 6 seed. But if they stub their toe here, it's a good conference. But if they weren't to win this, I think they could drop to an 8. And that would be a death knell, right? I mean, they'd probably win their first game and bye-bye the second time around. But so they're highly motivated, 28-3, 16-2 in conference. Beat West Virginia, beat Syracuse. What's the kid's name at Marquette? Sorry to throw the guard. The kid was a microwave oven that night. He had like 45 points. He could have shot it from half court. Yeah, he could have shot it from half court behind his back with his left hand, and it would have gone in. Nothing but net. It was unbelievable. That kid, they just got beat by a microwave oven. And then they were upset in a couple of road games. But this team's the real deal. I mean, they are deep. They've got all the parts you need. They're well coached, but they've got the score when you need them. They've got Massenburg in the clutch time. The Harris kid, I think, and honestly, I think Massenburg and Harris could ultimately make it. I don't know if they'd be stars, but I think they'd make it to the NBA. And the Perkins kid is a big man who can really, he's undersized a little bit, but he dominates on the boards and can step back and knock down threes. It's a really deep team. In fact, they're already talking about another contract extension for Nate Oates because this guy would be in high demand. The other team is Toledo. They're 25-6, 13-5 in conference. But are their teams capable of making some noise? Absolutely. Bowling Green can step up to the plate on any given night. Kent State can a little bit. Again, in a one-game scenario. It's Buffalo's tournament to lose, but the buzzsaw, because you're always playing the cornered rat, right? I mean, you get to Northern Illinois advanced, beat Ohio, Akron won, beat Miami. These are teams, they're not going anywhere. I mean, they're not going NIT, they're not going anywhere, and they're not horrible basketball teams. So when you're playing these teams, these guys are turning in their sneakers. Then it's like they're cornered rats. I mean, it's their last game. You get their very best shots. So certainly the Dogs can cover. In this tournament, the one thing I would say too, real quick about Buffalo is, generally speaking, when teams get a big lead, you want to survive and advance, and you rest guys. The problem with when you're playing Buffalo, thinking, the Dog can cover the game, is if they've got the game in control. And they would bring the bench guys in. Buffalo's 8 deep. I mean, their bench have guys that would be starters on 2/3 of the league. So it's almost like, and they want to play and they want to show something. So that's the one thing about Buffalo is now a motivated Buffalo team at the end of the year. They are capable of covering a big number because their bench is really good. They don't call the Dogs off.
Well, and the thing that's tough about this conference tournament right now, it did start last night with those first-round games, moves to Cleveland on Thursday. I haven't seen updated futures prices with the new draw here with the 8, 5, 7, and 11 moving on, although Ball State probably a better team than Eastern Michigan anyway, so that's not really that much of an upset there in that 11-6 game. But the thing about this tournament for Buffalo is it's hard to see them not making the finals. Akron isn't what they used to be. Kent State did win this thing as a 6 seed 2 years ago, but they're not a great team. Neither is Central Michigan. So it's very hard to see Buffalo getting bounced before the finals. The question is, who do they wind up playing there? Is it a Toledo? Is it Bowling Green? Do we get some sort of weird, quirky thing in the MAC? Or does Buffalo, do they have just such a clear path to this championship that there's not going to be equity on anybody else? So I think that's the interesting thing you watch for here is, as you mentioned, I think Buffalo is motivated, does have incentive. I wouldn't be surprised if they win this conference tournament and get put on a 5 line because the committee loves to put 12 mid-majors against each other to knock one of them out. So we'll see how Buffalo gets a draw. But, yeah, I agree with you. I think, falling to an 8 by not winning this conference tournament would be the worst-case scenario, a very possible one at that. And also the 2 seeds are pretty strong, so you don't want to be a 7 either.
No, no, it's not like they're not motivated. By the way, I think they need, is it 2 wins? Well, 2 wins to be a 30-win team. I think they're already the best record ever by a MAC team. So, no, believe me, they're highly motivated. They're looking to put a stamp on this thing and close out what's been a remarkable season. The one thing I would say to you is the 2-7 game, Toledo, Northern Illinois, who's the better team? Toledo, there's no doubt. But know this, Northern Illinois is one of the teams that stepped up to the plate and beat Buffalo. So, again, you're getting a team that's circling the wagons here, and they will call on that experience. It was a home game, obviously, so big difference there. In a one-game, a one-and-done kind of deal, Northern Illinois is no walkover.
All right, so one other conference tournament I want to touch on with you here is the Atlantic 10. This one at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. VCU is the only team guaranteed an NCAA tournament berth at this point. Even if they lost in their first game, it wouldn't affect their at-large chances. They're definitely in. Davidson is the 2 seed and now the second favorite, plus 350. VCU a chalk favorite, minus 140. Dayton, 375. But there's an interesting potential team lurking for VCU here, a team I know you know pretty well from living in the Western New York area for a long time. We talk about recent form when it comes to golf. St. Bonaventure is playing some of its best basketball of the year at the most optimal time.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, they can go home right out of the gate, or they can make a little noise here. And in this conference, 8 teams records below 500. VCU is the clear-cut number 1. Dayton, Davidson, I would even say a St. Louis. Consistency has been St. Louis's problem. St. Bonaventure's record is 16-15. But in conference, they're 12-6. And, okay, so in other words, this is a completely different team on the back half of the season than they were out of the gate. And Mark Schmidt is a phenomenal coach. I've got best friends. I go to Olean every summer. This will be the 32nd year in a row. I'm going back to Olean for my 3-day. It's a member guest golf tournament with my best friend, and it's in Olean. And it's such a wonderful little community. Everybody knows everybody. And they live and die in bleed Bonnie's basketball, but it's in the middle of nowhere. And Mark Schmidt does a great job recruiting there, and then he always gets gets a JUCO stud to come in. And he had great teams with great guards last year. They graduated. Well, he totally reloaded, and now this is a really young team. And the guy Stockard is a guy that he can get red hot and be a scorer, but he was the 3rd or 4th wheel last year. Now, he's the guy that can score. What this team has done is they got freshman guards, and they got a 6'10" center. Asunya is the kid's name. He's got a wingspan. He's a shot-blocking machine. And this team has ratcheted up defensively. And they win the games now in a half-court style game because they play great defense. And the key for them is if the kid in the middle doesn't get in foul trouble, they're in games. The problem is, the first game, and they get a double bye. A team that's one game over 500 has a double bye. But the one thing I would tell you, they're going to get the George Mason. If GW and UMass play, then they'll play George Mason. So they'll get the winner of that game. I think, no game's a walkover for them. I think they get through there. The real problem is they played VCU once this year. They lost by 30. But again, they're a different team now than they were then. The key is, can somebody knock out VCU? I don't think it's a one-bid league, but I don't think VCU's a stroke on the board to get through. I don't like Bona's chances against VCU, but I can see Dayton or Davidson beating them.
Well, and one of the things that's so unique about these conferences where you've already got one team in the field and you may have another berth that goes out. Like Buffalo in the MAC, will Toledo steal a bid? Will Bowling Green steal a bid? Will somebody else steal a bid? It's possible, but Buffalo has incentive to move up. For VCU here, a team that, per most ranking sites is a top 25 team, they're safely in, and I think that their seeding isn't really as much of a consideration for them as it is for a team like Buffalo. So while Buffalo is supremely motivated, despite already having a bid, I'm not entirely sure that VCU falls under the same umbrella, which could open something up for, really I think only the 2, 3, 4s have a chance, but could open something up for Dayton, Davidson, or Bonaventure here.
No, that's right. And I've always been a big fan of the A-10. I think it was one of the most underrated conferences every year. And there are teams that can get in there and they can make some noise. It's a great conference. That being said, it's a big-time down year across the board in the A-10. I think the A-10 is a better conference than the MAC, but I think in this specific instance this year, the A-10 and the MAC are maybe a little more comparable. I love the A-10, and this is one of all the conference tournaments. This is one of my favorites because somebody will get in there. There'll be a live barking dog in there in the championship game. Although, you would call Davidson or Dayton a barking dog. If Bonnie did it, it would be if they ever pulled off the upset against VCU, it would be a great story. But believe me, the winner of this, the team that wins this tournament and makes a push, I'd be all in on them in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And this is one of those tournaments where a team gains momentum in this tournament and carries it into the first round of the NCAA tournament.
Brian Blessing, the host of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline. How can people check out those two shows, Brian?
All right, bud. We're KSHP.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Brian Blessing. We get the shows up there for you as well. Sportsbook Radio, noon to 1 Pacific, 1 to 2 is Vegas Hockey Hotline. Great time of year with the push for the end of the regular season. The teams trying to get their way in. And from a betting perspective now, the motivation as these games are being played, some really good betting angles in play for you in hockey. You can follow me on Twitter at Brian Blessing. And we'll be getting the videos up. We're going to do the A-10. We'll get the MAC. I think we'll also focus on the Mountain West, which will be right here in Las Vegas. Adam, so we'll get some videos to you. And, of course, the Players' Championship video. So we'll have those videos for you at Bang the Book.
And before I let you go, I know you do a lot of stuff for March Madness on site. You do some shows, do some watch parties and stuff. Are you doing anything for conference tournament weekend here?
Oh, you know what? Thank you for that. I mean, if anybody's coming to town, on next Tuesday, the selection show on Sunday, we do an annual seminar. It's called Tip Off to the Tourney. It's in Club Madrid at Sunset Station. We have a great panel. And last year, honestly, across the board, we had some really good picks and some really good first-round winners that we gave out. That's a lot of fun. If you come into town in Sunset Station, it's Tuesday night at 6. And then if you are coming to watch the games, I'll be downtown at the Golden Nugget doing the radio shows, but they're morning, noon, and night in the Grand Ballroom at the Golden Nugget. It's a great venue to watch the games, so if you're coming to town to watch March Madness, I invite you to come on downtown to the Golden Nugget. We'll be hanging out down there. Stop by and say hi. I
promise one of these years I'm going to make it out there. Brian Blessing, the host of Sportsbook Radio.
Buddy, it's the best. I swear to you, but the Super Bowl, and all these great events, there is nothing better. Nothing better than the first 2 days of the NCAA tournament, if you're going to be anywhere, is to come to Las Vegas and watch the games here. It's the best 2 days of the year.
Brian Blessing, the host of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline, at Brian Blessing on Twitter, and contributor to our Bang the Book YouTube page. Brian, appreciate the time as always, man. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll talk to you again next week.
All right, dig in, kid. 90 minutes to go.
That's right. Brian Blessing again. Sportsbook Radio, Vegas Hockey Hotline over on KSHP, and at Brian Blessing on Twitter.